Welcome to the SaaS AdLab podcast, where we bring you the stories of SaaS founders, entrepreneurs, CEO, marketing directors, and more. My name is Luis. I'm the founder of Fantôm Agency, a digital marketing agency specializing in scaling SaaS companies. And today I have the pleasure of interviewing Beaudin. He is the marketing director over at Atlatl, which is a product visualization company. They do some really cool stuff with e-commerce and stuff like that. So, Chris, thanks so much for being on here. I know you have over 15 years experience in strategic marketing, from media to brand verticals and stuff like that. So I'm very excited to have you on here. Why don't you just give us a quick, background on what you've done in the past, how you got to Atlatl, and some of the things you've done so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Love this topic. It's been a topic I've been investigating for years. Spent almost 10 years with a actual manufacturer, leading strategic initiatives in the last 2 years there, and really just deep dove into this space because there's so much power in new technologies like 3D and AR and things that a seller can do with it. So much so I wanted to get on the other side of the fence and actually represent that technology. And for the past 3 years, I've been working with a number of manufacturers and product sellers to improve their buying experience, both for their sales teams, but really now we think we can empower companies to really let their buyers do the heavy lifting, because that's what buyers want to do. They want to make those choices and kind of have that control. So having a lot of fun doing it.
That's awesome. So I think it's very interesting. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the type of growth that you guys have seen over at Atlatl after, I think it's unfortunate for a lot of, verticals, a lot of industries. Obviously, were hit by the pandemic pretty hard. I can imagine you guys are kind of on the other side of the spectrum, right? E-commerce really shot up. And it was already growing at a pretty fast pace, but just with this just being like, super hyper boost, whatever you want to call it, the entire online ecosystem changed dramatically. So what kind of growth did you guys see? I think it was like after April, March last year already.
Yeah, it was a really interesting timing for us, especially given our backstory. We actually were kind of born out of a manufacturer who saw we need to go to market better, need to sell better, need to quote better. Atlatl began as more of a sales tool, visualization tool. But really about 2 years ago, we saw what was coming, which was we need a better commerce experience. E-commerce obviously is the way of the future, but the experience was always a little bit lacking. It's like, okay, you show me one image, now maybe there's an image gallery, maybe even a video, but the buyer still was never empowered. They were still being sold to. And we made the decision to really build a new and improved platform, and have been working on that, and the timing hit with the pandemic, where all of a sudden we were building this new platform to handle everything a seller would want to at the time when sellers needed it. And so we've been working on that for the past year. We introduced the full platform this year, and the amount of interest and growth we've seen, obviously it's incredible. And we looked at it as a great opportunity. I mean, it's not just from a business standpoint, but we can help sellers who really were struggling, because now they can power, a buying experience with 3D that rivals what they were doing in store. Obviously you don't have the tactile experience that you used to, but you have an endless shelf, and that's what digital brings. And I can show everything I make in every configuration, and a really cool experience that buyers really are more comfortable with than they have been in the past. So it's been a fast-paced year for everyone, but the timing, fortunately, unfortunately, it did work out in our favor, and we're sitting in a great position to help companies, harness what they need to going forward.
That's great. And is there a specific type of product or size of product that is typically more benefited by this type of, product in a sense? I see in your background, I see a bike, I see a guitar, I see a motorcycle. Does it matter, what type of product people are selling that this could be more beneficial for them?
Sure. Yes and no. I would say, anyone who makes a physical product, this is certainly something that's applicable, right? What it's really great for, light e-commerce products, they might not need this, but anything that has a little bit more of a thought process that goes into a decision before you purchase, or especially something that has options, color options, configurations. There's a very wide middle of the spectrum that this is perfect for. I would say those super simple, or something that is like, I need to design a whole system. That's a space we've been in, but there's more powerful kind of niche software that probably handles the more engineering laden type things. But if you make a product, if it's something especially that can be bought online or in a store, this is perfect for you.
Mhm. That's cool. Now, I don't want to get too into the product itself, but I'm definitely interested, and I
Yeah.
think people would be too. How do you go from, say, you have your, brand new product that you're starting to sell on Shopify or something like that,
Yep.
and how do I get my product images for that on the website? Is there a direct integration, or I have to send you guys a product, you guys take the pictures and, visualize and all that stuff, or how does it work?
Yeah, it's relatively easy, and that's where our team is part of the power of what we offer to you. So I'll use the case study of the bike behind me, right? If you're a bike manufacturer, you have product files that help you build this bike. We can work with you to leverage those. We create a 3D representation, sort of like a digital twin of that bike. We can use our platform to kind of optimize that for online viewing in 3D, and then turn it into a 3D model that you can let your buyers view, zoom into, they get those important details. And the key is really through our platform. Anytime you're looking at 3D, obviously there's two elements, right? And our platform is geared around these two. Does it look great? And when I want to look at it, do I have to wait, or is it optimized for performance? If I want to zoom in, I don't want an hourglass to pop up. If I want to change something, I don't have to wait to see that change. It should all be instant.
Yeah.
And so that's really what we zeroed in on, is how does it look great? How does it perform really well? And when you do that, that's where that impressive experience kicks in, that buyers go, okay, this is not just some flashy gimmick technology. This is actually a better buying experience.
That's cool. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about, the challenge that we were talking about previously before we start recording, that
Yeah.
marketers have,
Mm-hmm.
nowadays. And you mentioned that it just, like, the problem is still there. It's
Yeah.
just, faster, right? So
Yeah.
what does that look like?
So I think about it this way. As marketers, the idea of the experience economy is nothing new, right? Friction kills buying. Um, Buyers don't want to be sold to. They want to be empowered to control their buying experience, and then we'll let you know when they need help. If they have that control, they're able to gain confidence, and then that confidence leads to better, more purchases, bigger purchases, so forth, right? But an experience like that demands a more elegant solution than just, here's a picture of our product. And that's where 3D comes in. And so for marketers, it's how do they leverage something new like this? And part of the mental challenge we have is we think of what 3D and VR and AR has been. We've seen previews of it, and it was kind of clunky. And there's a lot of reasons where all that technology has merged, both in finding new ways to make it efficient in the way we have, but even just the devices we hold in our hands, right? They're more powerful than they used to be. And so we finally hit that point where, these new applications of technologies we've kind of been exposed to are solving problems in ways that we need to pay attention to. And what's going to happen, especially now with the acceleration over the last year of just, embracing digital, if you haven't, in the way that really you should, is that acceleration is going to create a competitive landscape that is dramatically different than what you're used to. And the players that embrace these new solutions and these more buyer-centric solutions, they're going to be the ones that win over the long term. And so you really have to pay attention, find the vendors and the partners that are thinking about it in the right way, and partner with them now.
What are some of the partnerships that you guys have built, that have helped you, grow more as a software company?
Yeah, we build on Babylon, and we have a team of experts. Which, mentioned it at the beginning, but we're unique in how we've kind of our origin story, where we have everything from the best in, tech software expertise all the way through to like actual manufacturing expertise. So we can sort of speak the language and understand the needs of our clients. We bring what they have with what technology offers, and create the best product for them. But beyond that, we look at who out there is doing really interesting things in commerce. You mentioned Shopify, Magento, others. What are they doing to change the landscape of commerce? How are they making it easier for shoppers? And how can we be a part of that? Because at the end of the day, friction kills. And so if we can eliminate friction in the buying process, we're a big piece of that, we view as a visual solution kind of
Mhm.
provider in the commerce landscape. Making it easy to actually click the purchase button is one thing, but that whole front end of how do I get to that purchase button is really what we're looking to solve for.
Right. What are some of the things that, like, I'm trying, just with this conversation, I'm trying to visualize myself in a purchasing scenario, right? Where, like,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, like, I love to buy online, and whether it's clothes or, something for a car or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I think almost every time I hover over the image, I zoom in as much as I can to try to get into that detail, right? Like,
Yep.
how does this look? Like, what is the quality of whatever this product is, especially if it's brand new, like a website I've never visited before, that
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know what to expect as far as quality goes. That's definitely something that I find myself doing. Do you know, or is there any sort of statistic that, shows the type of friction that not having, high quality product images creates?
Yeah, there probably are a bunch of statistics. I think what's interesting is each category has a different view of this, right? In certain categories, like you think of like luxury fashion accessories, right? That's a very emotional purchase. And
Mm-hmm.
so the emotion of engaging with that product when you're not in the store, it is going to be different, right? You can't touch it. You can't feel the crocodile texture of the purse. How do you replicate that? And obviously, it's photography will always have a place, but what's cool about 3D is it's not just one picture, but it's an endless amount of pictures because I can zoom in, zoom out, I can change the angle, and I can capture that picture or just keep experiencing it. I can change the color. And so it changes the experience. And I think in the past we were hesitant to do that. We were, oh, I got to go to the store. But
Yeah.
more and more people are that shift in power between convenience and that trust in digital. It's happened.
Yeah.
And I think over the last year, that's part of that acceleration is it wasn't necessarily the sellers, it was the buyers had to accelerate.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who was hesitant to that, now they don't think twice. Um, but one of the keys I think is when they control that experience and finding those angles and looking in and zooming in, it's not a brand image, it's their image, the one they produced. That creates an emotional connection. And when they pick the colors, when they go in and even view it in AR, they put that purse on their desk or the bike next to them, they're
Yeah.
doing it. And now they're starting to own it a little bit more. And so
Mm-hmm.
as a
That's
seller,
interesting.
yeah, you're helping them sort of start to own it even before they click buy. And there's power in that. I'll even extend it further. Not only can they do it, but how easy is it to share that link with their family or their friends?
Yeah.
And I had a great example. We have a boat demo, and we've been talking to a lot of boat manufacturers, and they say, man, if one of our buyers or interested buyers puts that AR boat in his driveway and his buddies come over, he's buying
Yeah.
the boat.
Yeah.
He can't walk back then. So that's what happens when you can bring experiences like this to life. It's like taking the product home for a test drive, but it's digital. So it's very easy.
I've never thought about that sort of, building that emotional connection, but it's
Yeah.
100% accurate.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before the podcast started, right? Like, there's been a lot of instances where I'll go, and I think the one that I've used most, I know other companies are doing AR type of stuff now too, but
Mhm.
the one I've used most is just Amazon, when they allow you to put the product in your room or whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. But it definitely helps you, just like visualizing it works, right? Like,
Yeah.
how it's going to look with everything that you have. You don't have to like picture it in your head anymore. But it definitely makes it feel like it's already there once you do it
Mhm.
that one time. So it just creates that connection, which I think it's pretty invaluable, but that's really cool. Yeah, I can't imagine doing that with a boat though.
Well, and I think what's cool, AR definitely opens up a whole level of experience, right? Because you're seeing it to scale in real space. But a lot of times AR is just an example. I
Mhm.
think what's cool and the way we approach it with 3D is the experience really starts with seeing the product digitally. And that's kind of like, you can see it come to life, you can view it around, but then when I'm allowed to customize it and pick my colors and do things like that, now I'm making it my own. And when I can then see what I just made in AR, not just a sample, but like I actually designed this and I'm seeing it, and if I
Mhm.
want to go back and change something about and then I can see that one.
Right.
That's where it really hits home in a different way than what we've experienced as consumers before.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of it too like a car dealership type of thing where you
Yep,
build you build your vehicle, it's everything the spec that you want, colors and everything. Now you're just putting it in your driveway. It just
absolutely.
yeah, definitely gets you that much closer to pulling the trigger on it.
And what's also interesting about that, that's a great example, because I think in car buying, one of the things we often are, we buy what is available in the model we're looking at, right? But really, we probably would have bought different options or upgraded to this or that we if we were in control of that. When you're in a
Yeah,
dealership and someone's selling you these things, we just, we're kind of hesitant. But when you're exposed to all of the options, the accessories, the things you want, you have that fun of clicking, oh yeah, I want this. I want
yeah,
this. People end up buying more, and there's this whole reverse buyer's remorse theory than especially a lot of higher end purchases, where if they would have been exposed to it or they would have had more control over it, they would have purchased more. And if they didn't, they end up wishing they did.
yeah.
And this really
And they'll
solves for
probably
that.
like they'll likely have less of that buyer's remorse too, right?
Yeah,
Because they were the ones that built it and chose it.
exactly.
So
Less returns.
that's
100%.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What other things aside from, obviously having a great product, like what does marketing this look like? Is it mainly reaching out to people that, big manufacturers that maybe want to get this type of, service
Yeah.
product? I don't know what you call it, like images for their products. Is it, going to trade shows? What does marketing look like for you guys?
It's been interesting over the past year trying to retool that, as everyone is.
Yeah.
What's been fun for us is being able, kind of, being the first customer of this new platform. Because what's super fun is taking these demos and, instead of having to do photo shoots like I've lived in the past, I'm doing a photo shoot every hour if I want to,
Hmm.
because I can create incredible imagery of example products that actually sell the platform for me. So we've been leveraging that and showing and telling the story of what the power of this platform is to marketers who are looking and seeking for new answers. Because as everyone emerges from this, there's going to be two things happening. One, budgets are going to be tight, but demand to increase revenue is going to be strong, right? How do
Yeah.
we respond the fastest? How do we respond the strongest? And I think whoever can come out with the best experience for the most efficient cost will win. And so something like this, where you have a platform that lets you create marketing collateral, you can use it at future events, digital or in person. You can use it to train your sales team. You can use it in store with a kiosk or something like that. You can use it to provide leads to dealers. You can use it to direct commerce.
Hmm.
The power we can give to marketers, it makes it an easy story for us to tell as marketers. And so that's what we've been doing, is just letting the platform tell the story for us, showing it. And just like the bike example I gave earlier, once you see it, it just clicks. Oh, this isn't the 3D. This isn't the VR. This isn't the AR I've seen in the past. This is what I kind of hoped it would be.
Yeah. That's cool. So, I mean, it comes down to kind of like a demo, right? They get the full experience, and it just,
Yeah.
they get that aha moment right off the bat. But how are you getting people to get on that demo?
Yeah, it's obviously, if you're a visual company, seeing is believing. So that's where we put, when you see even like the bike behind me, it's just that subtle bit of it's alive. It's not a static picture, right?
Yeah.
When people scroll through LinkedIn, they see this little motion, they kind of stop and go, wait a minute, that's different. You
Mhm.
scroll through Instagram and you see static pictures. When one is moving, you kind of stop, because it's not a video. It could be a video, but it's more just an animated product. What is this? Let me check this out. This is breaking through the clutter. And so the more we can do to expose that through our partners, through creative agencies, through commerce platforms, that's where marketers are paying attention for the new solutions, and they're going, oh, this is
Mhm.
something else, right? And that's where we create those conversations. And honestly, we
Right.
have a lot of people coming to us because they're, those that are on the front are looking and going, oh, this is what I need. Didn't know what to
Right.
call it, but now
It,
I
it,
I got it.
and it's, I guess, somewhat different, right? It seems, at least to me, it's more of a novelty. Like I said, I've only seen it in a couple of places. Like bigger companies usually, more budget, more ability to invest in this type of thing.
Yep.
How accessible is Atlatl to, you know mid-sized companies, say small businesses that are on e-commerce, something like that?
Yeah, I would say, super accessible, all depending on the scope of what they want to do.
Mm.
If it's truly a commerce connection with, one product, a whole product line. It really depends on their use case. There's a lot of interesting startup companies, and I look at something like the motorcycle market. You have the tried and true motorcycle manufacturers, but then there's this whole new suite of e-bikes coming in, and both of whom, either side of that are great candidates for technology like this. But there's no history in the e-bike space. It's all brand new. So we can really relate to them as much as we can provide a great use case for something that's been around for 50 years. And so that's what's interesting, is we can grow with companies, or we can help companies grow to new heights in a new world.
I like that. Now, as far as you trying to go back to the topic of marketing here, is there anything that you guys have done that resulted in, more successful strategy or tactic that you guys implemented than you expected?
It's always been interesting for us to gauge reactions on like any marketing team. We're looking at ABM, we're doing email outreach, we're obviously, what can we do to generate inbound through SEO and social and other channels in. But the challenge we have is it's a new space. And like I mentioned a minute ago, people don't know what to call this yet. Yeah. So, trying to help them find the breadcrumbs back to what this is. We know the pain points, they just don't know this is the medicine for them. So what we're looking at is testing all the different ways that people might discuss this, because it's 3D, it's visual commerce, it's visualization, it's visual configuration, it's augmented reality. There's a lot of ways in. But I think what's interesting, as I mentioned, is when you start putting out those breadcrumbs and it has those more animated products, that's what breaks through. It's finding that thing that's unique about what you offer. And for us, that's it. And when they see that, they get the power of it and they say, okay, tell me more. This looks different than what I'm used to. Will this help me? Is this right for me? Can this help us sell faster? Can it help us sell more? When they start asking those questions, we know we're on the right track.
Right. Who is it? Like, if you could, potentially just pick and choose who you worked with, as far as, and it sounds like maybe you can, right? Because you said you had a ton of interest in people coming to you now. But if you could just, pick and choose who you worked with, as far as a dream client, who would that be, as far as what type of company, what type of product, and so on?
It's hard to play favorites. I think as a marketer, the dream is always to work with a big household name, right? And there's so many of those that we would be, perfect for and would love to work with. But I could also say there's a lot of really cool upstart companies that I've seen that I'm like, man, it'd be fun to help them grow. Because they can break into a space and do some things that maybe the big players can't, because they're too slow to move. But they put a power of our technology onto their website and just sit back and watch, right? So as a marketer, I kind of look at it both ways of what is the biggest, who are the whales out there, but then who are the really fast swimmers and the fish that we could help grow.
I think like direct to consumer companies, right? It's kind of like what you're talking about, and I have like this deep love for some of these companies that are just very fast, like you said, and they come out with really cool products, really cool narratives behind them. And I think it'd be cool if I could just go to their website and see some of their products, even if it's just like the bike behind you that is just like slowly rotating. It just gives you a little bit more of like depth into the product, and I think it's really cool. But that's awesome.
And I think especially the smaller players who aren't encumbered by a history of brick and mortar, that they also they can't abandon. The bigger companies that have that, we can provide solutions each way, but that just it's a bigger solution versus a smaller, more nimble company, which, exactly like you mentioned, power your website with something like this, and you just gain that much more speed. Right.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Chris. It's super, super cool. Definitely innovative. I'd love to see more companies start using this product. And let's go into a couple of fast questions here that aren't really related to this. I've never asked this one, but I'm interested now since we kind of brought up the topic. What is your favorite DTC company, like to date?
Good question. There's so many. Gosh, I'm trying to think.
How about let's switch it up a little bit. Which direct to consumer company would you like to reach out to you and say, hey, we want to use your product?
So I mentioned boats, and they're, because I've been looking there, and we're out of Charleston, South Carolina. So everyone, when the weather gets warm, wants to be out on a boat. There's a couple boat manufacturers that, boats typically you go to the lot and a dealer and you find a boat and that's the deal. There's some new companies that are doing some interesting direct to consumer digital plays. That would be one that I would love to see in a very traditional space, what we could do there to kind of disrupt that whole industry. That would be a fun one for me.
That'd be awesome. What is your favorite movie?
Oh, Top Gun.
Top Gun, that's a good one. And where can people find you?
Personally, right now in my house, because I think we're all working from home. But no, for more on Atlatl, visit our website. We're always on there, willing to chat. Find me on LinkedIn. I love talking about this or just marketing in general. I love that there's places like this that we can all go to find interesting information. So thank you for doing this. And yeah, that's where you can find us.
Great. Thanks so much, Chris. It's a pleasure having you. And last but not least, do you have any questions for me?
Oh, what is the most interesting thing marketers should be thinking about right now?
That's a good question. That's a good question. You got me with that one. Let's see. I think any more specific, like what type of marketer?
How can you gain traction faster in this new climate?
In the like e-com space?
Sure.
I think it's just having better customer experience, right? And maybe this is a little cliche. I just started reading on like Jeff Bezos, and like his mind is just like on a different level. And I never really knew, because I feel like he's a pretty, like kept together person, not really vocal. You don't see him in a ton of like press or anything like that.
Right.
But now that I'm reading a little bit more about him, like he's super obsessed about just customer experience. And I'm going back, like I literally order everything on Amazon, right? And the number one reason for that is literally customer service. And it's cool to see now that I'm reading on it, how that's the like number one thing for them. And I've never had like any sort of negative experience when, if I, receive the wrong product or something and you pick up the phone and try to talk to them, even if it's on chat, it's always a great experience. I don't know if this is the case for everybody else. Maybe I've gotten lucky. I'm not sure. But I think that's definitely it. Like recently I also heard, like everybody thought that chatbots were going to revolutionize everything and it was going to be the next big thing, and nothing really happened. I feel like it's been a couple of years now, and it's like, okay, well, if anything, I feel like they kind of broke things a little bit. Like you get on the chatbot and then you're waiting and then nothing really happens. You try to like get to somebody real and you just keep getting this generic answer. So I would say like think differently, but also be like super customer centric, where the end result is always to just provide a really, really good experience. And that's what's going to get people to come back every single time.
Totally. Yep. I agree. I think, Amazon's a great one. What's interesting is you have an Amazon who's all digital, and then you have a Costco or Chick-fil-A, which are still leaders in customer experience and are winning, even though they're physical. How do we learn from all of them and apply it to our own spaces?
Well, even if you think about Chick-fil-A, right? I think it's the right company. Like I think I saw it somewhere on social media, but they had their employees, like the people that typically take your orders, doing that from home. And I thought that was pretty crazy. But same thing, like something to learn from those companies is just always learn how to adapt. Like there's no reason why you should like, stay closed or something like that. Like there's a way for you to provide your service, regardless of whether you're, selling chicken patties or you're selling, product visualization, service. I think there's ways around everything, and you just have to keep an open mind and be willing to like just pivot whatever comes your way.
Absolutely. Yep. Totally agree.
Yeah. That was a good question. Definitely got me on that one. But thank you, Chris. And if you're watching this and you enjoyed it, give it a thumbs up, subscribe, depending on where you're looking at it or listening. But Chris, it was a pleasure having you. Thanks so much for the time, and we'll stay in touch.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Take care.
All right. Thanks.